For 5 years of marriage, she never allowed me to call her wife, nor did she let our daughter call her mom. However, on New Year's Eve this year, Mu Shu, who had always been strict, broke the rule in an unusual way and seemed to be in a very good mood. Rarely, Mu Jue was tender enough to lift our daughter in her arms and gently kiss her forehead. The girl looked at me in surprise. "Zhao Ming, Dad? Zhao Ming, could it be that she started to love me?" During the 5 years of this contract marriage, Mu Shu never allowed me to call her wife, nor did she let our daughter call her mom. When I saw the mark of a kiss on Mu Shue's neck, my heart filled with bitterness. I smiled sadly and stroked my daughter's head. "Anita, daughter, the person your mother has loved for many years has come looking for her. We should leave as usual." Still, I prepared a surprise for Mu Shue's New Year's Eve. Red rose petals covered the bedroom, and on the dining table was an abundant banquet. Little 4-year-old Anita ran with her short, chubby legs, busy hanging one string of colored lights after another. She looked at me and asked, "Dad, Zhao Ming, do you think she'll come home today?" My gaze darkened slightly. I don't know either, but the surprise has to be prepared just the same. Who knows? Who knows if Mu Shui will finally realize my kindness? Besides, I longed too much to see her smile. At that moment, there was a knock at the door. I opened my eyes in surprise. I thought Mu Shui would use the excuse that she had to work overtime, but I didn't expect her to choose to come home to ring in the new year with us. Father and daughter? Did that mean she was starting to try to accept me? I smiled and walked quickly toward the door. As soon as I opened it, Nita ran out happily. "Miss, Happy New Year!" The next second, Nita's voice died away. My movements also stopped. I looked at Mu Shu in front of me and at the man standing beside her. My heart fell into the abyss. That man was Zhen Yu, and more than that, he was the white moonlight in Mu Shui's heart. Zhen Yu was a student sponsored by Mu Shui's family. He was handsome and proud, coming from a humble family but strong and persevering. In Mu Shui's high society circle, he was an exception. Mu Shui fell in love with Zhen Yu at first sight, and the two quickly fell into the nets of love. Whether at family gatherings or business charity events, they were always seen together. The problem was that Mu Shui's family did not value Zhen Yu. They preferred me. Every time Mu Shu went out with Zhen Yu, she used me as a facade, asking me to drive them and pick them up. I used to stay staring at the lights of the small apartment from the moment they were turned on until they were turned off, remaining all night in the open air. Later, Mu Shui's grandfather suddenly fell gravely ill, and his last wish before dying was for Mu Shui to marry me. Upon learning of this, Zhen Yu decided to leave without saying goodbye. Under the double blow, Mu Shui suffered an emotional collapse and had no choice but to first fulfill her grandfather's will. She imposed 3 conditions on me: to divorce after 5 years, and not to interfere in each other's lives again. 5 years had not yet passed when Zhen Yu returned early. I had already foreseen what would happen, but I still harbored hope. I bet that Mu Shui would leave me at least a little dignity in front of the girl, and in front of Zhen Yu, but I was wrong. Mu Shui looked at the room decorated with such splendor and frowned. "I am working outside, and you bring Nita to stir up this fuss at home? Is that it? Anyway, it's no use talking. Pick up a bit and leave the master bedroom free tonight. You and Nahan will sleep together. Zhen Yu has just returned to the country. Tonight he will stay in our house." I did not miss the flash of mockery in Zhen Yu's eyes. I wanted to open my mouth to persuade Muse Stasi to change her mind, but my throat closed with bitterness and I couldn't utter a word. Mu Hisrei took Zhen Yu's hand and went straight into the bedroom. Seeing the trampled and soiled petals on the floor, a feeling of helplessness washed over me. I smiled sadly, looking at Anita, and had to destroy the girl's illusion with my own hands. "Mom, the person Mom has loved for years has already come. We have to go." That night, Mu Shui and Zhen Yu's laughter and jokes contrasted violently with the silence on my side. Nita sobbed softly. My heart ached while I comforted her until she finally stopped crying. The laughter in my ear continued until late at night. I put on my coat and walked step by step to the master bedroom door. Seeing the light filtering through, I clearly heard Mu Ja's soft voice. Jinyu? Why didn't you let me know you were returning to the country? We haven't seen each other in so many years. Do you know how much I've missed you? The marriage contract between Zhao Ming and me will end next week. Then you'll have to compensate me with a grand wedding, okay? I held back the bitterness in my heart and closed the door. During 5 years of marriage, we hadn't even had a decent wedding anniversary. Mu Shui only knew how to throw away the food I prepared with care and cut into pieces the clothes I bought for her. Even Nita. On the wedding night of that year, Mu Shu, grieving Zhen Yu's departure, drowned her sorrows in alcohol. She mistook me for Zhen Yu, and Nita was the result of that absurd night. For so many years, everyone told me that a person's heart could be warmed, so I tried to win her over year after year, but Mu Shu always believed it was my fault that Zhen Yu left, so she hated me, and extended that hatred even to the girl. Even when Nita, whom she herself carried in her womb for 9 months and gave birth to, called her mom, there was only repulsion in Mu Shui's eyes. When Nita was a little over a year old, she was punished to kneel for a whole day, crying until she almost ran out of breath without understanding what she had done wrong. I, with a broken heart, hugged her, and then I saw Mu Shui, haughty and distant, warn me, I am not her mother, she can only call me Miss. And you too, Zhao Ming. Leaning on the relationship between our two families for so many years. Don't you get tired of acting in front of me? I know perfectly well that you like me. If it wasn't because you didn't know how to hide it well, my grandfather wouldn't have forced me to marry you, nor would he have forced Zhen Yu to leave. That's why you are not allowed to call me wife. When the 5 years are up, we will divorce immediately. At that moment, I knew that Mu Shui had understood for a long time the deepest part of my heart, but she had used that feeling to protect the love between her and Zhen Yu. I took a deep breath, trying to hold back the tears, but I failed. A drop fell on the divorce agreement, blurring the 3 characters. Dad? Nita's voice sounded from the bed. I didn't expect that at this hour, she still wasn't asleep. I crouched by the bed and stroked her head. Why aren't you sleeping? What if you're late for school tomorrow? Seeing my reddened eyes, Nita raised her hand and wiped the tear at the corner of my eye. She said that tomorrow she would take me to kindergarten, and that in the afternoon she would come to pick me up. Can we wait a little longer, Dad? Looking at Nita's innocence, I felt as if a giant hand were squeezing my heart to the point of making it difficult to breathe. I dug my nails into my palm until they left red marks and forced a smile. How long does Nita want to wait? Nita looked at the teddy bear Mu Shu had casually given her, which was placed at the head of the bed. The bear was somewhat worn at the corners. Even the stuffing was coming out, but Nita cherished it like a treasure, only because it was the only birthday gift Mu Shu had given her. In 7 days is my birthday. I want to wait until then. If she stays with me, we stay. If she doesn't care about me, we'll leave. I nodded my head. Mu Shui? I'll give you 7 days, 7 more days, and all the absurd and ridiculous things between us will come to an end. Outside the window, the snow was falling softly. I put the scarf and hat on Nita, and when I was going to look for the gloves, I remembered I had left them in the bedroom. I was preparing to go back for them when Mu Shu frowned. Leave it. Have her put her hands in her pockets. It's the same thing. Mu Shu reached her hand toward Nita. Hurry up. I wanted to say something, but Nita had already taken Mu Shu's hand and Brace's hand and, turning back, smiled at me. It's okay, Dad. I'm already well wrapped up. Looking at Mu Shui, back while she held Anita's hand, I stood somewhat stunned. For 5 years of marriage, most of the time I spent it with Nita. Mosa was either on a business trip or working overtime, and now suddenly she took the initiative to assume the role of mother and chose to take Nita to school. I knew perfectly well it was thanks to the glow of Zhen Yu, but I still couldn't help but rejoice at her initiative. I prepared a table full of dishes according to Mu Shui tastes and waited in silence for them to return. When an hour had passed since school let out and I still didn't see anyone through the window, I realized something wasn't right. I put on my coat hurriedly and ran toward the kindergarten. I didn't expect to run into Mu Shui and Zhen Yu on the way, behaving with intimacy. Instinctively, I hid and saw how Jinyu circled Mue Shui's waist while they entered an empty parking lot. Mue Shui smiled ambiguously and took the initiative to kiss Zenyu's cheek. "Aren't you afraid that Zhao Ming will see us with such haste?" Zenyu smiled and deepened the kiss. Mue shrugged with a blurred voice. "He wants me to spend more time with Nita. At this hour, he's surely cooking and waiting for us to return." Clearly, they were dozens of meters away and were not speaking loudly, but I heard every word clearly. My breath hitched while I watched Muso get into Zenyu's car. I saw them kissing inside as if they wanted to compensate for all the kisses they had lacked for 5 years. The car window slowly covered with mist. Little by little, I stopped distinguishing what was happening inside. I only saw the vehicle swaying incessantly. My body was already numb from the cold, but my eyes remained fixed on that black car. I didn't understand why a person I tried to warm for 5 years couldn't be moved, while another only had to move a finger for Mue Shu to get into the car without being able to contain herself. I remembered the first anniversary of our marriage. 2 months before, I especially learned to make cakes with a pastry chef. I whipped the cream, covered the surface, decorated. Even the master himself praised my work. But at the moment of delivering it to her, the only thing I saw in Mu Shui's eyes was mockery. "Xiaoming, what are you waiting for? Do you really think a cheap cake bought anywhere can win me over? More than the wedding anniversary, you should remember well the day you snatched my freedom from me." I wanted to say that it wasn't like that it was Zenyu who left first, that it was he who abandoned her. But seeing the contempt and resentment in Mu Shu's eyes, my throat closed and I couldn't say anything. In the end, the cake was thrown intact into the trash. I felt as if a huge hole had been opened in my chest, and the cold wind were seeping in incessantly. When I reached the kindergarten, Nita was with her head down, unable to hide her disappointment. I lifted her in my arms and wiped the tears that had not yet dried. Why didn't Mom come to pick me up? Why doesn't Mom love me? I held back the bitterness that was stirring inside me and comforted her, saying that Mu Shui had had an urgent matter at the company. Nita nodded obediently. Mu Shui didn't return until well into the night. At that moment, I was checking Nita's sketchbook. She thought that because I hadn't picked up the girl, I would explode in anger, but I didn't say a single word. That surprised her a bit, because when it came to Nita, I always became extremely serious. Mu Shui threw me a glance and then looked away. She didn't want to get tangled up with me. She remembered the absurdity that had happened in the car during the day, and also Zhen Yu, slow, worried words. Her heart, which had been calm, began to stir again. She wanted to go into the bathroom to shower and clean the trace on her body. But as soon as she turned on the shower, the cold and piercing water fell directly onto her head. Mushu frowned with her hair soaked and rebuked me. "Why didn't you prepare hot water? Don't you know that every night I have to bathe?" I didn't lift my head. In silence, I continued turning the pages of the sketchbook. In 5 years of marriage, I clearly remembered each of Mu Justue's preferences. I did everything possible to please her. If she said go east, I never went west. Even if she asked me in the middle of the night in the rain to go buy something 3 blocks away, I never hesitated. When I had shown myself cold to her, an inexplicable anger broke out inside her. She approached and grabbed my hand tightly. "Zhao Ming? If you continue treating me like this, watch out. Tomorrow I'm going to register the divorce with you." She threatened me because she knew I couldn't leave her and knew how much I longed to maintain this marriage. Indeed, I raised my head, but in my eyes there was not the panic she expected, but a calm, like the surface of a still lake. "You clearly promised Anita that you would pick her up. Why didn't you go?" When I arrived at the kindergarten, only she was left. Do you know how helpless she looked? Mue Shui froze. At that moment, she was with Zhen Yu. He had mentioned in passing that she should go pick up Anita, but Zhen Yu simply hugged her more tightly. "It's Zhao Ming's daughter. I know you don't like her. When we have our own child later, then you can be a good mother. It's still not late." Seeing my reddened eyes, Mu Shui justified herself almost by reflex. "I had too many things to do and I forgot. Besides, that you picked her up is the same thing. No, it's not something so serious as to get angry with me." Mu Shui never knew that those acting skills she believed were so refined were ridiculous in my eyes. I looked at her in silence and, without saying a word, pushed the sketchbook that was in front of me toward her. The instant her gaze fell on the drawing, her heart contracted. The theme was Family of Three. In the illustration appeared Nita with Dad and Mom in an amusement park. Nita had won a teddy bear in a game. Dad was clapping and cheering. Mom was lifting her in her arms with pride and satisfaction. A scene of absolute harmony. Mu Shui kept silent. The room was plunged into a terrifying stillness. After a long while, she finally spoke. "Tomorrow I will take the girl to the amusement park as compensation for today." Nita had always wanted to go to the amusement park. Mu Shui knew that. She just had never given it importance, promising it time and time again without fulfilling it. She tried to ignore the discomfort that was born in her chest. I looked at her coldly. "Don't forget it again. In these last few days, I only wanted to say goodbye in peace. I didn't uncover the last mask. I only hoped that Mu Shui could play the role of mother well in Nita's childhood." When Nita woke up, the unexpected news left her stunned with happiness. She pulled at my shirt collar excitedly. "Really, Dad?" I had no choice but to laugh and pinch her cheek, pointing toward Mu Shu. "Look, Mom already changed her clothes." Mu Shu did not correct the way I called her. On the contrary, she even smiled at Nita. Nita, sensitive as she was, perceived the change and tried calling her mom. Mu Shu raised her hand. Nita, by reflex, shrunk her neck, but Mu Shu only stroked her head. Nita was exultant. All the way, she held Mu Shu, Anne's hand, tightly. Her small hands, reddened by the cold, did not want to let go. She pointed to the snowman at the edge of the street, then to the sleeping dog, chattering without stopping. Mu Shu responded to everything. All day, Mu Shui seemed to accompany Anita in all the games, even the ring toss that the girl had drawn in her notebook. What Mu Shui didn't expect was that the little teddy bear Nita had won with such effort. The girl gave it to her without hesitation. "Mom, it's for you! Thanks for playing with Nita." Seeing the girl's bright eyes, an emotion difficult to describe sprouted in Mu Shui's heart. The Ferris wheel was the last stop of the outing of three. Nita observed the night landscape with curiosity through the window. Mu Shui and I were sitting face to face. After a day of contact, the atmosphere between us had softened a lot. Mu seemed to want to say something, but in the next second, her phone showed 2 messages. She lowered her head and saw the name of the sender, Yen Yu. "I think I saw you in the amusement park we used to come to." Nita pointed to the illuminated skyscrapers, describing the view before her eyes excitedly, but Mu Shu stopped responding as if she heard nothing. I did not miss the joy that lit up Mu Shu's face. Reflected in the glass, I clearly saw the name, Zhen Yu. I remember someone said that when the Ferris wheel reaches its highest point, if you make a wish, the gods will hear it, and it will come true. If you wish to remain together with the loved person forever, the two will travel the rest of life together in happiness. In my adolescence, I blindly believed in that. I looked for 1,000 ways to invite Mu Shu to go up the Ferris wheel with me, but she always found excuses to reject me. I believed that someday I would move her, so I bought the ring in advance and practiced alone on the Ferris wheel, imagining the scene of a successful confession. So as not to forget the ring, I even hid one in the pocket of every piece of clothing, ensuring there would be no mistakes. Now, finally, I had achieved it. I stroked the ring in my pocket, but in my heart there was no longer either nervousness or joy. Mu Shui didn't stop typing. The smile on her face was dazzling and painful to me. I took a deep breath and slid the ring into the slot of the seat. Just then, the Ferris wheel reached the highest point. I closed my eyes, and I made a wish. If there is a next life, I pray never to find her again. Yen Yu's appearance did not surprise me. Mu Shui's suddenly radiant expression made it clear. Zhen Yu gave me a familiar pat on the shoulder. "Brother Zhao Ming? Seeing that Mu Shui is so well taken care of by you, I can rest easy." I did not miss the veiled mockery in his words. Nita instinctively showed a certain rejection toward Zhen Yu. Seeing you knelt in front of her, "Nita? So few days without seeing me and you already forgot your uncle? On New Year's Eve, I even played jokes on you." Nita said nothing. Seeing the atmosphere grow tense, Mueshu intervened. "It has been very hard for Zhenyu to return to the country. It's been years since we gathered to chat. How about we go to dinner together?" Mueshu was originally on Nita's and my side, but while speaking, she moved toward Zhenyu. Suddenly, I saw the two of them standing next to each other and felt that the stranger was me. "It's not necessary. Tonight, I have something to do." I tried to reject the invitation, but Zhenyu approached with a low voice, yet loud enough for everyone to hear. "Brother Xiaoming, you won't hold a grudge against me? You won't even grant me a dinner?" I wanted to refuse again, but I saw Muishu's somber face. The words, "Don't ruin the mood," almost left her lips. I swallowed them back and nodded, but Muishu had already moved away with Zhenyu. "I know a restaurant that has an excellent flavor. The first time I went, I knew you would like it," said Muishu. "I don't go to a restaurant you've been to with another," replied Zhenyu, feigning grievance. Muishu let out a laugh and gave him a light punch on the shoulder. "That day I went alone, really. There was no one else, really. If I lie to you, may I turn into a puppy?" Zhenyu gently pinched her nose. I saw clearly how Muishu blushed. She avoided Zhenyu's burning gaze. How annoying. Am I a child? I stood frozen in place, my legs weighing like 1,000 kilos, unable to move half a step. My breathing became rapid. I watched their backs moving away until my eyes burned. The wind blew, and tears began to fall without control. When I arrived, Muishu and Zhenyu had already ordered the dishes. Zhenyu waved his hand. "Brother Xiaoming, you don't mind if I sit next to your sister-in-law? It's just that there really were no more seats." He put on an awkward expression. I looked at the two empty seats in front of me and said nothing. The waiter brought foie gras with red wine sauce. Zhenyu opened his eyes in surprise. "Muishu, I didn't expect that after 5 years you would still remember that I like this dish." Muishu raised her eyebrows. "Of course. The other dishes are also your favorites. Your taste fits perfectly." Zhenyu cut a piece of foie gras and took it to his mouth, full of satisfaction. "It's delicious." He adopted an expression of absolute happiness. I lowered my gaze and cut a piece to give to Anita. Seeing that she didn't react, Zhenyu's gaze moved and he asked, "Muishu, you always order the dishes I like. And what about Xiaoming?" Muishu's hand holding the napkin stopped for an instant. "He is not picky with food, he eats anything. You don't have to worry." I passed the glass of water to Anita, and where Muishu couldn't see me, I squeezed the palm of my hand until deep red marks were made. It wasn't that I wasn't demanding with food. It was that Muishu had never paid attention. She had never asked me about my preferences, whether it was my favorite color or the style of clothes I liked. It never mattered to her. In Muishu's heart, I was only a temporary solution when no other options remained. A tool to fulfill grandfather's last wish. Nothing more. Only that. I tried to calm my emotions, but still I couldn't prevent my eyes from reddening. Nita saw it all, her eyes full of concern. "Dad?" I forced a smile, wiped away the tears without a trace, and said, "Do you want to eat a little more? Dad will serve you." Nita knew I didn't want to lose my composure in front of others, so she nodded gently. At the other end of the table, Muda too saw food remains on the corner of Zhenyu's lips and carefully wiped them with a napkin. "Why are you still as careless as before?" Zhenyu smiled widely. "Exactly as before. Nothing has changed. This feeling is so good." His words were full of sarcasm, implying that I had destroyed the lives of both. Zhenyu's gaze stopped on me. Seeing how my face became increasingly pale from what he was saying, he curled his lips with satisfaction. If that incident hadn't happened that year, our child would already be Nita's age, right? I could endure Zhenyu's provocations directed at me, but I would never accept his malice toward Nita. "Don't bring the girl into this," I blurted out, unable to contain myself. Zhenyu feigned surprise first, looked at Muishu, and then looked up with an innocent expression. "Xiaoming, did I say something incorrect? If you hadn't attacked me in front of grandfather that year, how would Muishu and I have ended up separated? I know you like Muishu, but so many years have passed. You should already give her back to me." Zhenyu lowered his gaze with a disappointed gesture and forced 2 tears in the corners of his eyes. Mu Shui saw it clearly and couldn't help but feel pain for him. She squeezed his hand tightly and didn't even give me a glance. A bitter sensation invaded me. Finally, I understood that my 5 years of effort were not worth a cent in Mu Shui's eyes. I took a deep breath and decided to leave that suffocating place. Nita walked obediently at my side. Mu Shui said nothing to retain us. On the way home, Nita took my hand. Her voice was soft but firm. Tomorrow is Nita's birthday. Nita still remembers the promise from before. If she stays with me, we stay. If she doesn't care about me, we'll leave. Her childish words resonated in my ears. Okay, I responded. Mu Shui did not return all night, and my phone did not stop ringing. Zhao Ming? Why do you have to cling to Mu Shui? It's clear that if you left obediently, none of this would be a problem. Zhenyu sent me a photo. It was Mue Shu, S underwear. Guessing game with a prize. What do you think we are doing from 10 at night until 3 in the morning? Every half hour he sent a message, determined to destroy my dignity. You've already tasted Mue Shui. She calls me husband. Did you see the messages? Message after message, like thousands of needles sticking into my heart. I couldn't contain the rage and hit the wall with force. The skin of my hand split and began to bleed immediately, but the physical pain did not alleviate the inner pain at all. Extreme disappointment and sadness enveloped me, almost leaving me breathless. Closing my eyes, I saw Mu Shui, mocking coldness toward me, opening them. Zhenyu's threatening provocations. It was like being in the middle of a whirlwind of suffering, forced to endure all injustice. It shouldn't be like this. The life I desired shouldn't be like this. How did it end this way? Why? I knelt on the floor, covering my face while crying inconsolably. On the nightstand was our wedding photo, me smiling radiantly, Mue Shui, with an impatient expression. From the beginning, it was wrong. I shouldn't have fallen in love with Mue Shui. There is a phrase that only now do I understand completely. To approach you is to approach pain. To distance myself from you is to distance myself from happiness. Mue Shu and I are exactly like that, destined never to find true happiness. I didn't sleep all night. Until dawn, Nita, hugging her teddy bear, sat next to me. Father and daughter sat on the sofa, waiting in silence for Mue Shui's choice. When the clock struck 10, Nita couldn't help but ask, "Is she going to come back, Dad?" With bloodshot eyes, I smiled at her with bitterness. I don't know. When it struck 12, Nita got off the sofa, took milk and bread from the refrigerator. After eating, she sat down again and continued waiting. When the clock struck 2, Nita saw my wound. She looked in the first aid kit for a bandage and stuck it on my hand. I hugged her for a long time without saying anything. When the clock struck 5, my phone rang. It was Mue Shui. Nita's eyes lit up. She approached excitedly, wanting to hear her mother's birthday greeting. "Mom! Aunt!" called Nita. Mue Shu paused a moment. Her voice sounded somewhat impatient. "Why are you screaming so much? I hear you!" My right eyelid began to tremble without stopping. A bad feeling invaded me. "Zhao Ming?" I heard Mu Shu say my name. I was too familiar with that way of starting. Every time there was something unexpected, Mu Shu called me by my full name. "Tonight I'm not coming back. There are matters at the company." Upon hearing it clearly, my heart skipped a beat. I turned stiffly toward Anita. The smile she always wore on her face finally disappeared. I was left speechless. It was Nita who spoke first. "I understand, Mom." This time, Mue Shu did not correct the way she called her. She responded with an aha and hung up hurriedly. Nita left the teddy bear and went to the bedroom to look for clothes. I felt her sadness and hugged her tightly. "It's okay. Dad is here. Dad is with you. It's okay, Nita. Dad loves you." Nita buried her face in my chest. I couldn't see her expression. Quote, "Dad?" Her voice was choked with crying. I felt cold on my shoulder. They were Nita's tears. "Let's go right now." I had wanted to give Nita a healthy childhood with both parents by her side. But what Mu Shui gave her was only endless coldness and disdain. "Let's go very far away. Let's never come back again," said Nita. I booked the plane tickets that same night and began to pack the bags. Nita looked at the teddy bear fallen on the floor and finally decided to leave it behind. Mui-Chu was not her mother. The gift Nita had given her was not something valuable to her either. I packed quickly and left the divorce agreement on Mo-Xiu's nightstand, ensuring she would see it as soon as she returned. Nita stood at the door. "Dad, are you finished?" The girl who clung most to home now rushed me to leave. I took her hand and we went out. "Dad, where are we going?" "The city of Yang." "City Yang? Is it far from here?" "Very far. She won't be able to find us." "She won't be able to." "Then it's okay." At the moment of boarding the plane, I sent a message to Mui-Shui. "The freedom you want, I give it back to you." After hanging up, Mui-Shui always felt that something was not right. She frowned unconsciously, remembering the conversation from a moment ago. Zhenyu raised her face with his hand and kissed her with intimacy. "Darling, now I feel so happy. Tomorrow is Wednesday, just the day of your divorce and also my birthday. We have to celebrate in a big way." Zhenyu brushed his chin against Mui-Shui's forehead. Normally, she felt comfortable with that gesture, but this time it was a bit uncomfortable for her. Without showing emotion, she turned her head and widened the distance between them. Finally, she understood the origin of her restlessness. Yesterday in the amusement park, Nita had said, "Mom, tomorrow is my birthday. Can you be with me?" At that moment, Mu-Shui was absorbed in Zhenyu's messages and nodded distractedly. She didn't see the joy in Nita's eyes, nor perceive the inquisitive look in mine. Suddenly, she understood that the silence, when I answered the call, those 5 seconds of silence, were my total and absolute disappointment toward her. Mumalei's heart was invaded by an inexplicable fear. Zhenyu took the small teddy bear that was at the head of the bed and began to play with it, bored. "What is this? You can't even touch it!" He pulled hard on the bear's arm. One didn't know if it was because of excessive force or the poor quality of the plush, but the arm came off, exposing a large tuft of cotton. Seeing that scene, Mu-Shui suddenly remembered the expression of joy on Nita's face when she gave it to her. The word "mom" resonated again and again in her ears. She felt a sharp pain in her chest. She snatched the bear from Zhenyu and looked at it stunned. Confusedly, she remembered the previous night when the Ferris wheel reached the highest point. Nita full of emotion and me with a smile on my face. She remembered that at that moment, she had wanted to tell me something. What was it? Ah, she already remembered. They say that when the Ferris wheel reaches the highest point, the gods hear the wishes. Zhao Ming, what is your wish? That was what Mu-Shui had wanted to ask me. I had mentioned more than once that I wanted to go up the Ferris wheel with her. She knew I had a deep wish I wanted to fulfill, but the sudden message from Zhenyu disturbed her thoughts. Her attention was attracted by him, and the idea that remained faded. Mu-Shui felt her chest tighten. She took a deep breath, trying to calm down. Zhenyu rested his chin on his hand. In his gaze, sarcasm was not hidden, although his words sounded full of grievance. "Miaiso, do you regret being with me?" He swung the phone with feigned pity. "But after what happened last night, you no longer have a way to return to them." Muishu's face turned pale upon remembering the madness of the previous night. Her body tensed upon seeing Zhenyu speak softly while his expression was full of mockery. A huge restlessness enveloped her. "What did you say?" She lunged to snatch the phone from him. Zhenyu leaned back and she missed. He looked at her with a devastated face, sighed, and shook his head before handing her the mobile. "The password is your birthday." Mui-Shui's hands trembled slightly. She had to try several times before entering the conversation with me. At the moment she saw the obscene photos and provocative words, Zhenyu's laughter resonated throughout the room. The tense nerve in her mind broke. Her ears began to buzz. She looked at him horrified. Zhenyu smiled. "You knew this day would come, right? If you chose to get tangled up with me while married, that this should happen was logical. Besides, tomorrow you two will divorce. That annoying Zhao Ming, along with the girl you detest, will disappear from your life." He stroked her hair and gently wiped the tear in the corner of her eyes. He leaned toward her ear like a demonic whisper that made the confused Mui-Shui shudder. "You should be happy, Mui-Shui." Plof! The loud voice of Zhenyu stopped suddenly. He took his hand to his face, looking at her surprised. Mu Shui trembled with anger. Who gave you permission to send it to him? Zhenyu showed his teeth in a smile. Mue Sue? Why do you pretend? You forgot what you called me yesterday. Although he smiled, Mu Shui felt she was falling into a frozen abyss. She could barely breathe. It wasn't like that. It shouldn't be like that. She stepped back several steps, marking distance. She was wrong. During 5 years, her obsession had embellished the image of Zhenyu again and again, layer after layer, until turning him into a perfect and irreproachable memory. Only now, when his darkness and vileness were exposed without disguise, did she understand, horrified, that the person she had loved deeply was nothing more than a hollow illusion. At that moment, she thought of me. She remembered the previous night, she and Xinyu leaning against each other while I lowered my gaze, feigning calm to feed Anita. In reality, she had noticed it. She had seen my sadness, my effort to contain myself, the moisture in my eyes. But she chose to ignore it. She firmly convinced herself that the man she loved was Zhenyu, not the man who had been at her side for 5 years. So once again, she ignored my pain and despair. Mu Shu dressed hurriedly. She wanted to contact me, but she didn't know when her phone had been turned off. From behind came Zhenyu's laughter. So that Xiaoming wouldn't ruin our good moments, I turned off the phone especially. Mue Jue? Aren't you going to praise me? An infinite regret invaded her. Her last inner defense collapsed completely. Enough! Don't say more. I won't divorce Xiaoming. And much less will I marry you. Don't stick to me again, Zhenyu. From today, between you and me, everything is over. We will never see each other again. Zhenyu looked at her as if he had heard the funniest joke in the world, and doubled over with laughter. Mu Shu, 5 years have passed, and you are still as naive as before. He wiped away the tears from laughter. I never cared about your love. His voice became low suddenly. From the beginning to the end, the only thing I wanted was to destroy your marriage. While dressing calmly, he recounted his plan. That old man doesn't know how to judge people. He engaged you to Xiaoming, and on top of that, you who said you loved me couldn't even keep your womb intact. 5 years married, a 4-year-old daughter? Who knows if what you told me was true? Each word worsened Mue Shui's face. She stayed rigid, unable to move. Zhenyu shrugged. As a traitor in love, a small punishment is the minimum you deserve. What is a pity, Xiaoming? He looked at the ceiling and sighed. He could have lived very well loving anyone, but it had to be you. Mu Shui smiled with malice. Destiny always enjoys mocking people, don't you think? At that moment, the phone finally turned on. She saw clearly my farewell message. The freedom you want, I give it back to you. 9 short words, but loaded with infinite desperation. Guilt, helplessness, and regret tore through Mue Shui, Greska's reason. Everything before her eyes became blurred by tears. In her hands, the shattered teddy bear, in her ears, the mocking laughter. There still remained in her heart a last ray of hope. Perhaps I only spoke by impulse. Perhaps I only wanted to go clear my head. I had loved her so much, how could I abandon her? Mu Shui rose staggering, bumped against Zhenyu, and ran out. The icy wind enveloped her. Before she could put on her coat, her body quickly lost sensitivity. Tears flowed without control. The wind cut her face like blades. She ran desperately. She went so hurriedly that she slipped on the ice and fell to the ground. A sharp pain pierced her. She squeezed her palms and rose, staggering. Blood stained the hem of her pants, but she didn't even look. Her view remained fixed on that closed door. When she grabbed the handle, she heard the frenetic beats of her heart. On the way, she had rehearsed innumerable times how she would ask for forgiveness, but when she finally opened the door, the only thing she saw was an empty living room. "Zhou-ming," she shouted with a raspy voice. She only received a mortal silence as a response. Limping, she went toward my bedroom. The first thing she saw was a half-empty room. Restlessness enveloped her completely. Her heart beat faster and faster. Step by step, she headed to her own bedroom. Seeing the paper on the nightstand, her breathing stopped. She approached and read the 5 large words. Divorce agreement. In that instant, she lost all her strength. Mu Shu fell to her knees on the floor. The tears repressed for so long broke out with violence. Unable to endure the torment in her heart any longer, she cried between sobs, "Xiaoming, you can't leave me. I know I was wrong. I know I was wrong." Nita and I had just gotten off the plane in a distant coastal city. The warm light of the south enveloped us, father and daughter. At that moment, my phone filled with notifications, voice messages, and missed calls from Mo Shui. I didn't delete them nor listen to them. With total calm, I took out the SIM card and threw it in the trash bin of the airport lobby. "Welcome to the new life, Nita," I smiled, squeezing her small hand. Meanwhile, on the other side, Mu Shui was almost out of her mind. She turned the whole city upside down, used all the connections of the business group to search for our whereabouts, but all was in vain. Regret was like slow blades cutting her skin every time she saw the shattered teddy bear or Nita's empty room. But who suffered most was Zhenyu. Zhenyu had thought that after destroying Mu Shui's family, he would naturally become heir to her immense fortune, or at least have a gold mine to live off his whole life. He didn't expect that Mu Shu, in her desperation and fury, would transform into an implacable predator. The following morning, while Zhenyu quietly savored a glass of wine in a luxurious apartment paid for by Mu Shui, the door was kicked down. It wasn't the police, but Mu Shui's trusted bodyguards. Mu Shui entered. Her eyes were reddened by the night spent awake, but cold to the bones. She threw a bundle of documents on the table. They were proof that 5 years ago, Zhenyu had received money in secret from a competitor to approach Mo Shui and steal trade secrets, in addition to bills for huge gambling debts abroad. "Mu Shui, let me explain," stammered Zhenyu, his once attractive face now twisting with fear. "Explain it to your creditors," ordered Mu Shui with coldness. In less than 24 hours, Mu Shui used her power to freeze all of Zhenyu's accounts, under the pretext of recovering assets obtained through fraud. She also disclosed the evidence that he had violated confidentiality agreements, ensuring he would never again find work in the sector. But that wasn't all. The lenders to whom Zhenyu owed money abroad received anonymous information about his whereabouts. That same night, he was captured in a dark alley. They broke both his legs, the price for playing with a woman crazed by having lost the person she most loved. He spent the rest of his life disabled, wandering and begging, always pursued by the shadow of his debts. A month later, Mu Shui received an envelope by urgent courier. Inside, there was no sentimental letter, only a photograph of Nita smiling radiantly by the sea and a document confirming that the court of my new place of residence had finalized the unilateral divorce process. Mu Shui collapsed over her desk, hugging the photo, crying in silence. She had taken revenge on Zhenyu. She had recovered her freedom and her money, but the man who always waited for her under the yellow light on New Year's Eve would never return. I watched Anita building sandcastles with a light heart. There are people who only learn to value when they have already lost, but there are wounds that, no matter how much time passes, one does not wish to return to heal. I chose to forgive myself, forgetting her forever.